All right, we're also going to do here 5.5 using symbols to subtract fractions. Here's an example, 5/8 subtract 1/4. We are going to try to use that rule that we developed, that we need to get a common denominator. Second is to subtract the numerators, and that will be your numerator. And then third is going to keep the common denominator. So whichever one is common, that's going to stay the same. And if needed, you'll simplify at the end. So here, we've got 5/8 subtract 1/4. Looking at this, I could change this here, this 1/4, this quarter, to come up with a common denominator of 8. So I'm going to keep that 8 the same because I know that 4 times 2 is 8. So we're going to keep the 8th. We're going to make this bottom part of the fraction an 8 by multiplying by 2. And whatever I did to the bottom, I need to also do to the top. So 1 times 2 is 2. That's our first step. Get a common denominator. Second step is we're going to subtract the numerators. So 5 subtract 2. 5 subtract 2 is 3. And that's going to be our numerator. So step 2 is done. We're going to keep the denominator. That's step 3. So whichever was that common denominator, you don't just get to pick one. It's whichever one you used as your common one. It's going to be the answer. And then 4, if needed, we need to simplify. But 3, it's only divisible by 3 and 1. So we can't do anything. So that's our answer. I'm going to do one where we might need to simplify. All right, here's an example. 2/3 subtract 1/2. Now looking here, turning a 3 into a 2 isn't easier, and turning a 2 into a 3 isn't easy. So our first step, the common denominator, we're actually going to need to change both of these fractions to something that's common. And just like in addition, my suggestion is to take the opposite denominator and multiply by that number. So this 2, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by that 2. And the 3 here, not the 1, I'm going to multiply this by. So taking that, 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, now our second step, if we remember, now that we have a common denominator of 6, we're going to use this second step, which is subtract numerators. 4 subtract 3 is 1. There we go. We're going to do step 3 now, keep our common denominator. So this one that was common was 6. We're going to keep it. And then our fourth step would be to simplify if needed. Now in this case, we didn't need to. And we didn't need to because this was the lowest one that we needed. Had we gone to another common denominator higher, maybe 18 we could have used, or 36 I meant to say, we would have had to reduce, but here we didn't. If you ever have to, it just means that the numerator and the denominator could be divided by the same number.